Whether they are the evil masterminds trying to take over the world, the low-level scumbags who just want to get rich, or anything in between, some villains can end up doing some truly horrible things in order to achieve their goals, and in some cases may even get away with no repercussions whatsoever. But in other cases, audiences can be left with some especially satisfying moments, as the villains they have despised for so long are finally defeated by the main protagonist or are undone by their own foolish actions or overconfidence. And so with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with sci-fi villains who got what they deserved. Dick Jones in Robocop. As a senior executive of Omni Consumer Products, Dick Jones planned to use his position to take advantage of the reconstruction of the city of Detroit and have his heavily armoured Ed 209 robots replace the local police force. But when Robocop threatened to derail his plans, he had the brutal crime boss Clarence Bodicker kill the creator of the Robocop project, Bob Morton, and added the Directive 4 limitation to Robocop's programming, preventing him from taking any action against an OCP executive. Jones even gloated about his involvement in Morton's death to a defenseless Robocop before leaving him to be killed by an Ed 209 robot. But Jones was eventually undone by his own ego in the film's final act. Robocop confronts Jones at the top of OCP Tower during a board meeting and plays a recording of him confessing to his involvement in Morton's murder. Jones panics and tries to take the CEO hostage but is promptly fired from OCP, nullifying Directive 4 and allowing Robocop to shoot him. Jones is then sent crashing through a window and falls to his death, delivering a satisfying end to such an immoral and power-hungry villain. Dr. Mann in Interstellar. In the distant future, humanity's survival is under threat from continuous dust storms and crop blights. NASA's solution was to dispatch numerous scientists through a recently discovered wormhole to try and find a planet that humanity can colonize. Of the 12 scientists NASA sent, Dr. Mann is one of 3 who confirms that his planet is viable for human life. In response, NASA sent pilot Joseph Cooper and his team to rendezvous with Dr. Mann and assess the suitability of his planet. But shortly after arriving, things take a turn for the worse. Mann reveals to Cooper that the planet is not habitable and that he manipulated the data he sent back to Earth so that he would be rescued. Dr. Mann then leaves Cooper for dead before stealing their shuttle with the intent of taking their ship, which is in orbit. But as Dr. Mann is explaining to Cooper why he lied, he accidentally kills himself while attempting to dock with the ship. In the end, Dr. Mann's death was a fitting conclusion for someone who was willing to prioritize their own survival over all of humanity. Colonel Koobus Venter in District 9. If aliens ever did arrive on Earth, we would hope that we could get the chance to send our brightest and best to greet them, and not someone like Koobus Venter in District 9. Venter is an extremely aggressive, sadistic but skilled mercenary soldier who commands his own private military company units to maintain order within the alien slums of District 9. He is openly xenophobic to the aliens known as prawns and on multiple occasions takes great pleasure in insulting, hurting and killing them. When he is tasked with retrieving Vicus, he and his team pursue Vicus relentlessly through District 9, gunning down multiple gangsters in the process. When Venter is the last one left standing and finally catches up to Vicus, he decides to disobey his orders and wants to kill Vicus just for being a waste of his time. But as he is about to execute Vicus, he is surrounded by a swarm of prawns. He makes his last stand but is quickly overrun and torn apart by the prawns, who then begin to devour him. A nasty way to go for a very nasty villain. Ash in Alien. From the very beginning of Ridley Scott's Alien, Ash was deliberately manipulating the crew of the Nostromo. He lies and tells them a warning signal is actually a call for help. He tries to get them to investigate an alien wreck on an uncharted planet. He successfully gets them to bring a facehugger on board and allows an infant xenomorph to run free. When Ripley finally discovers Ash's orders from Mother to bring the xenomorph back alive, he tries to kill her but is overpowered by the crew and decapitated. Ripley reactivates Ash to try and get information out of him, but all Ash does is marvel at the xenomorph's survival capabilities before Ripley pulls the plug and deactivates Ash for good. An argument could be made that since Ash was an android made by Weyland-Yutani Corporation, he was just doing what he was told to by the company and had no control over his actions. But that still does not mean he did not get what was coming to him after deliberately endangering the entire crew and forfeiting their lives on company orders. Carter Burke in Aliens. The only thing that can outdo the lies, manipulation and sabotage of Ash in the first Alien film is the lies, manipulation and sabotage of Carter Burke in the sequel Aliens. Despite presenting himself as a reasonable guy early on in the film, his true intentions are quickly laid bare. Not only was he the one that ordered the colonists of LV-426 to investigate the alien wreck Ripley encountered in the first film, but he was hoping to bring back a live specimen to study. He even locks Ripley and Newt in a room with a facehugger in the hope that they would be impregnated by it. But before the Marines can punish Burke for his actions, they are forced to defend themselves against a massive swarm of xenomorphs, and Burke uses the ensuing chaos to escape by leaving everyone behind and locking the door behind him. But just as it seems he will be getting away unharmed, Burke opens another door and immediately runs into another xenomorph, which kills him. Nathan Bateman in Ex Machina. Although Nathan Bateman was smart enough to create artificial intelligence, he was not smart enough to consider how dangerous said artificial intelligence could become if he mistreats them. But that is exactly what he ends up doing to his humanoid robot Ava and in his secluded mansion. To try and ascertain whether Ava can demonstrate true intelligence, Nathan arranges for one of his employees, Caleb, to have regular conversations with her to find out whether or not she is capable of individual thought and consciousness, despite knowing she is artificial. As the talks lead to more interesting revelations, Nathan's ego grows and his nasty side comes out, but he is ultimately outsmarted by Ava. During these talks, Ava convinces Caleb that Nathan has been keeping her locked up against her will and has been mistreating her. When Caleb helps Ava escape, she kills Nathan with the help of an older robot model, leaves Caleb imprisoned in the mansion, and blends into society. Despite Nathan's best efforts to control his creations, he is ironically killed by them as a result of their desire to live as free beings. Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park. Although Dennis Nedry does not intend to do any direct harm to anyone, it is because of his greedy and selfish actions that everyone in Jurassic Park is either put in mortal peril or killed. As a systems programmer in charge of networking Jurassic Park's entire computer system, Nedry's knowledge and understanding of computer software is only matched by his vain, prideful, and gluttonous behavior. After feeling underpaid by Hammond, Nedry is promised $1.5 million if he steals the embryos of the park's dinosaurs for one of his rivals. During a storm on the island, Nedry disables the park's security system in order to steal the embryos. This results in all the dinosaurs escaping captivity and putting everyone's lives in danger. But despite Nedry's confidence in his plan, he ends up paying the ultimate price for his greed. While Nedry tries to use the winch to get his jeep unstuck, he is attacked by a Dilophosaurus, who shoots venom into his eyes, causing him to drop the embryos. He manages to get back into the jeep, but then the Dilophosaurus appears beside him in the passenger seat and he is eaten alive. Madeline Madrigal in Dredd. As the head of the Marmar clan, Madeline Madrigal rules over Peachtree's tower with a bloody fist as her gang manufactures and sells the highly addictive slow-mo drug, which reduces the user's perception of time to 1% of its normal speed. She even uses this drug to make an example of rival drug dealers by skinning them alive, giving them the drug, and throwing them off the tower to fall to their death. When Judge Dredd and his partner appear on her turf, her gang ends up killing many innocent civilians in the crossfire while tearing Peachtrees to pieces. Even when it looks like she will be taken out by Judge Dredd, she rigs an explosive device to herself that will destroy the entire tower if she is killed. But that does not stop Judge Dredd from dispensing some long overdue justice. He forcefully injects her with the slow-mo drug and throws her from the top floor of the tower. The transponder falls out of range to initiate the tower's detonation, and Madrigal gets a nice long fall to her death. Wilford in Snowpiercer. What makes Wilford such an easy villain to hate is the lack of empathy he shows towards human life and how he justifies the suffering he has caused for so many people. As the last of humanity is on board a constantly moving train during a never-ending ice age, Wilford deliberately creates a class divide where those at the front live in luxury and forcing those at the back to live in dehumanizing conditions. When those in the rear carriages lead a revolt against the train and their leader Curtis makes it to the front, Wilford reveals to him that he orchestrated the revolt and many others before it as a means for both population and social control of the train. The only thing more monstrous than this reveal is the complete indifference Wilford shows towards the pain and suffering he is directly responsible for, and the way in which he calmly justifies his actions. Thankfully, his tyrannical reign comes to an end as an explosion derails the entire train. This kills almost everyone on board the train, but at least the vicious cycle Wilford forced upon everyone has finally come to a halt. Darth Sidious in the Star Wars franchise. When you take into consideration all of his deeds, it is easy to understand why Darth Sidious is considered one of the most evil and iconic villains in all of science fiction. His slow rise to power as Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic enabled him to wipe out all of the Jedi after executing Order 66. He also convinced a naive Anakin Skywalker to betray the Jedi Order and become his new apprentice as Darth Vader. Darth Sidious then used his Imperial forces and Star Destroyers to rule a galaxy that had been crippled by fear. But it was his overconfidence in the dark side of the Force that led to his undoing not once, but twice. The first time came when Luke Skywalker convinced his father Darth Vader to turn on Sidious, resulting in him being thrown into the Death Star reactor. The second time came when he confronted Rey years later, as she deflected his Force lightning back at him, killing him and the Sith once and for all. On both occasions, it was the blind confidence that Darth Sidious had in the dark side of the Force that led to his undoing.